Hi, I'm Jane Garibay, and I'm representative for the 60th District, which is part of Windsor and all of Windsor Locks. Thank you for joining us today for our first show of On the Porch. Today's guest speaker is Lisa Bress. Lisa is a town councilor. She was a CEA president. She was an educator, and she's also a parent. So I wanted to bring Lisa to the conversation today to talk about education and what's happening at all the different levels. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for asking me here today. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm so excited to have you and to have this discussion. I'd like to start off with kids, and what brings kids home to me is my niece, Jenny. When I was sick with the virus, and many of you know Jenny has Down syndrome, but she's very acute at picking up things. And she goes, I'm afraid Jane's going to go to where my parents went. And it was a very sad story. And we keep all news away from her, as much as we think we do, etc. So what's happening with kids? What do you think about that?
Well, Jane, I think it's very common what Jenny is feeling. I think there's a lot of children right now that are very anxious, upset, nervous, but also thrilled that they're home. So it's a bag of mixed feelings for children right now. But I think it's very important to acknowledge that children do have feelings about this and that they respond to those feelings differently. It's great that Jenny was able to articulate to you,
right,
that she was afraid, but some children may not say anything at all, or some children may act out. Yeah, they internalize it, and they, all of a sudden they don't want to eat this type of a food, or they don't want to do their work from school, or, they start to show behaviors. And I just hope, parents understand that just could be a sign of a child who's worried.
Right. And I know with Jenny, what's important, even though her routine is different, that it's important for her to have her routine. Is that with all kids?
Yes, Jane. And that's exactly one of the top 5 steps to do with children in this kind of a situation when they're facing a crisis. The one you mentioned, of course, is trying to keep a routine. Even though the routine is different, as you mentioned, you have to establish some kind of a routine. And it doesn't have to be a strict regimen, but it's something that the kids can look forward to every day.
Right.
It could be,
important for adults too. I kind of need it. Otherwise the day goes by and you're like, okay.
Exactly. It's just let the children know that there's some kind of normalcy here, even though it's not the regular normal, it's a new normal. And so you want to build in time for relaxation. You want to build in time for schoolwork. You want to build in time for family time. You want to build in time for play, all the things that will help a child get through the stressful time.
Right. And so, and how are they doing with the schoolwork? That's a big change. And different people learn different ways. I like in person.
Well, I would love to get into the schoolwork, but I just wanted to finish your important point, which was some of the things that you can do for the kids. I just wanted to add on to your great point about routine. There was a couple of other things. Getting the facts and sharing them. Like you mentioned with Jenny, that, you don't tell her too much, and that's good. Right. But there's nothing wrong with telling her something. And the best thing to tell her is facts. There's something going on right now, Jenny, and there's something going on that, that can sometimes make people sick. And so right now our routine is changed, and you judge your child, what level, or your loved one who's a child, whatever level of information is appropriate for them, give it to them. But you want to make sure it comes from reliable sources. So you can go online to ct.gov.coronavirus, and they have lots of resources there.
Anywhere. There's lots of good sources. And that's true, because she was wondering what the masks were for, the different things. So
kids they are very, very observant. So even though you try to keep it on the down low and you want to walk around like, nothing's happening, honestly, that's probably not you, but if people do that, that's probably more disturbing to the child, because they see that
they know something's different, right?
And they want to know, hey, what's up? And it's surprising that if you just, get the facts and give them a few, usually it's done after that. Oh, okay, this is what's going on. And then they adjust and they go back to their regular routine. But it should be recognized. And another thing you want to do with the children is stay connected with other friends and family like we're doing. And like we do on Facebook or through telephone or FaceTime.
Or old-fashioned letter writing.
Writing is
been writing.
Absolutely. In fact, I think Windsor Senior Services is doing a letter writing campaign to some of our elderly folks in the nursing homes. Nice. You also want to engage in self-care, whatever that is for your family, like a nice tubby at night for the children, or story time or playtime. You want to have whatever is self-care. Some people use meditation, whatever it is, let them play outside, something that allows them to do some self-care.
Talk to a friend.
Talk to a friend, play games. My son actually leads groups of game playing online with his adult friends. They do game playing through the phone, online, and through the computer. Mm-hmm. And the last thing, Jane, would be to focus on the positive, which I know you are an expert at that. And I think that's probably helping Jenny a lot. Stick with the positives. Oh, we get to spend time with each other. Oh, it's a beautiful day today. Oh, you finished this part of your work. I think those things also are very important.
Right. And so when it goes into the school portion, and one of my biggest concerns, and I've been listening to a group, are kids with special needs too, because they have services in school which help them. And without those services, everything's kind of gone, astray. So, kids in regular education, how are they doing? And then how does it affect our kids with special needs?
As you mentioned, children with special needs are affected greatly because they have programs that are pretty individualized. And we were sharing about our families, and I have 2 grandchildren who have autism. And my stepdaughter is a teacher. So one of the challenges that happens immediately with the children is they're getting their services online. So she has 2 children, they're 2 different ages, they have 2 different providers, and they have 2 different types of needs. So what I am finding, though, is that the school system is working very hard to make sure those children are getting their digital communications and their digital learning. But it is a challenge for parents who are trying to oversee that, because they're home, they might be teaching or they might be working from home, and then they're also trying to oversee children who might not be independent.
And they're trying to be the teachers.
Yes.
Wow.
So I do know, though, that school systems have really gone out of their way to make sure all services are provided. Wow. And I've heard some wonderful news about my grandchildren, that they are actually enjoying some of the online stuff. They're actually engaging in that. But you're right, special education is going to continue to be a unique challenge. The students who don't require those services are going through pretty much a regularly scheduled day. Not all day long, but they're getting their lessons uploaded, they're doing things online. Where it becomes more challenging is early childhood. But I've also heard from my grandchildren that the older ones are just loving it. They're going through all their work, they're finishing what they need to do, and then they have time to themselves. Right. The younger ones, it's a little bit more of a challenge, but I know that the school systems, again, and the educators have really done a crash course in Google Learning, and they have gotten some training, but they've also been uploading lessons. They meet with children online. I have one educator friend who actually took a whole day to call every single parent, make sure that they knew how to get online. So I do believe now things are a lot smoother than probably what was happening when everything first started.
When we talk about people on the front line and our heroes, teachers are heroes because they're doing a full day, from what I understand, with the kids, plus all the extra work. They're having to learn new systems. And I know just us learning to do this for the show. So they're learning all that. Plus they have their own children that they have to do those hours of teaching with. How's it working?
Well, I guess, Jane, it's working the way it is for other working parents, which is at times I hear from colleagues and former colleagues, and they're pulling their hair out. And at other times, they're telling me about all the triumphs, triumphs that they're having with children, triumphs that they're having with parents. So it is a mixed bag, but it's so funny you should say that teachers are heroes, because I was reading a press release from CEA President Jeff Leake, and he is the union president for one of the largest teachers union in Connecticut. And he was saying that teaching is the ties with nursing as the most stressful profession. Wow. So then, as you say, then you add on all of this extra. Mm-hmm. But one thing about, once a teacher, always a teacher, and I do have to brag, because I do know that all of my colleagues that I've spoken to have risen to the challenge. They've worked through the night to learn this mode of teaching. They've reached out to parents. They have uploaded their lessons. They're doing what they need to do and what they want to do, but they're still their deepest concern is always the children.
Right.
They're always concerned about how the children are managing, and they don't look at their own stress. So right. I did see CEA was doing a wonderful thing that I actually took part in, even as a retired teacher. They're doing some self-help workshops for free online for teachers. And I actually was able to share that with everyone in the community on steps for managing emotions and stress during this time.
Right. And what advice do we have for parents?
Well, parents actually are also sharing some of their triumphs, but they're also, what I'm seeing on social media and from friends is they're also, please take my children. They're sort of very appreciative, understanding what it's like to try to teach their children all day.
Right.
Yeah. So that has been it's been a wonderful sort of understanding that's developed between an additional understanding between parents and children and teachers about what it's like to be in an educational setting all day. It's not a piece of cake, but it's also very rewarding. Parents are mentioning how they sharing successes on how they were able to get their child to write this thing or draw. It's really been a wonderful learning experience, but I don't want to take away the stress factor.
Right, because some parents are working full time. If they're in medical prevention, they're not going home at night. You're right. And I was thinking, a few calls I've gotten, what I say is don't stress about it. We know it'll probably be through the end of the school year. Mm-hmm. They will catch back up.
It's really the advice, you asked me a question, and the advice I would give them is first to contact their teacher, because hopefully their teacher will reassure them that whatever they're doing is great. Right. Because right now, children are dealing with a major crisis. We are all dealing with a major crisis, unprecedented. So they will need to contact their teacher for anything they need and for reassurance. But they also can reach out to the district. I know that the Board of Ed has been very responsive in terms of understanding teachers' children's need even for food, that there's food insecurity in our town.
Right.
And so we have the daily pickups with free lunch and free breakfast for children, and any student under 18 in Windsor is entitled to that privilege. And so that's taking a little bit of pressure off. Hopefully parents can get some meals prepared ahead that are working. They should take advantage of that service. It's at Oliver Ellsworth, Windsor High School, and I believe at Clover Street.
Okay.
They should also reach out for any, things they might need, any advice they might need. And there's also websites, the Connecticut, I just Googled Connecticut coronavirus. There's websites there for parents. There's the Council on Early Childhood in Connecticut that has resources for parents. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of great places like the Connecticut Science Center that are doing free things.
Air Museum, the Connecticut.
Yes, the Air Museum has online things. There's so much offered.
They've been so creative.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to minimize what you're saying. It is incredibly stressful, and I'm sure parents are worried. Right. But I don't believe they need to be worried. I believe districts will have the decision to make about graduation. The districts have the freedom to make certain decisions with the State Department of Education guidance. I think they should, one day at a time, reach out to their teacher, their principal, or the district, and just try to enjoy this time with their children and learn together.
And I've seen sharing, that's the good part of social media. Parents connecting, hey, I can help tutor on Skype your kid in math, So there's been that kind of sharing and helping, and people that don't even know each other reaching out. And I think the other thing I would say is don't watch so much. We've talked about it before. Don't watch the news so much.
Yes.
Be informed. No, but don't keep your TV on all day, because just watching it can just like stress you to the max.
Absolutely. Limiting social media, limiting exposure to the news is very important for children.
Watch that movie you've been wanting to for years.
Yes,
read the book,
Yeah, I mean, because these things, children hearing these things, you think they don't hear them, but they do hear them. And if they can't process them, it can be very frightening. So make sure that you control what they see. You control the media, you control the facts that they hear, because you don't want them to be exposed to something that they really can't process.
Right. And when they walk into the room, if that's on the TV, they're soaking it. It's like they know, and they just soak it in.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Jane. I think it's important for children also, and parents, to recognize that they can't be sitting all day. They can't be sitting doing this work all day. I know that some other districts, I'm not sure about Windsor, but I know in some other districts, they actually have Wednesdays half day, and they call it Wellness Wednesday. So they allow parents and students to have the Wednesday half day off so they can focus on their self-care. Mm-hmm. Some other districts are having catch-up Friday, meaning you can not do any new work. That's the day to catch up the work if you've had some trouble during the week.
Right.
So, different districts are responding in different ways as far as understanding the pressure that parents and children are under right now.
Right. Well, and before we close off, I want to say parents are our heroes too. They've stepped up to the plate under insurmountable
conditions,
something we've never seen before, right? It's just, and they've stepped up to the plate. So there's lots of heroes in this, and they're each different. What a medical professional going through, no one can, that's beyond, because their lives are at risk. But you see heroes all along the way, from the people that clean the hospitals that we never talk about, etc. And parents and teachers are heroes too. And those kids that are sitting home and making it work, and helping out, that's great too. So I want to thank you. Did you have a last thing you'd like to say?
No, Jane, I would like to concur with you completely that there's so many heroes that are being shown up right now. And you just brought to mind the parade of cars that went through Windsor, all the educators that got in their cars.
Yes.
I remember you went in cars and did a parade of love and good wishes. I think what I'm hanging on to and what I'm most hopeful about is the goodness that I see in the community.
Right.
Is the recognition all of the sudden, or more recognition of the people who are our unsung heroes. And I really appreciate you mentioning them all today.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the first episode of On the Porch. We will be having more episodes with guests weekly, and I hope everyone will tune in. And if you have any suggestions, you can email me at janemgaribay@gmail.com if you have any ideas of who you'd like to see on the show or topics covered. And with that, we'll sign off. And again, thank you, Lisa. It was
Thank
great
you so much,
you.
Jane. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Bye.
Bye.